Alright everybody, today we're going to be doing the casting for an ankle foot orthoses, also known as an AFO. This is something we send out to a lab, but we actually have to make a mold beforehand so they can determine the size of the patient's leg for fabrication. So first and foremost, you're going to have the patient sitting in the chair off the side like this, not off the end, and have them come slightly away from the chair just so their calf isn't touching so you have more room to work. Now, this is actually a fiberglass sock, so we want to be able to remove it, so there's a few things we need to do before we actually put the AFO casting material on. First and foremost, this little kind of plastic strip that we're going to put on the foot. This protects the skin that when we cut off the actual AFO cast, it doesn't hurt their skin. And how we do that is we're going to start kind of at the toes here. Could you hold that top for me? Thank you. We're going to start just about right there, okay? And you don't want it to rub into the toes at all, so I'm going to bring it up just a little bit. And you're going to tape this up the leg. What you're going to do is going to follow the front of the leg, and you're going to have to make sure the patient's keeping their foot at 90 degrees, because if you put it on first and they're pointing their toe and you try to bend it, sometimes this little strip can come out and poke you in the toes. So we're just going to work our way up. Usually we have a medical assistant assisting us doing this. I actually do, but he's also the patient. Because as we put this on, it will be the medical assistant's job to make sure the doctor's doing everything right, because the doctor can be sitting in front of the patient like this. They're not going to be able to see from the side if we're keeping that foot at 90 degrees, and it's your job to keep us honest. Okay, so now that you've done that, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to put this little tube. You'll see what this is for in a moment, but what you're going to do is you're going to put that right on top of that black strip. And later you'll actually see how this actually helps us to have a nice little groove for our scissor to fit into. Make sure we're staying at 90 degrees. So I always remind the patient, keep bending your ankle. Now that we have that on, we're actually going to put the little bag that protects the skin. If you forget to put this on, the patient will not like you very much. Fiberglass doesn't come off your skin, and for your particularly hairy patients, they'll be very, very upset. So you just gather it just like a sock. You're going to slide it over that all the way to the top. Now there are several different styles of AFOs. There are ones that just go to here, which are more like the lace-up ankle support for people with chronic ankle pain. And now there are some that for people where their feet tend to drop and point, so we need to basically hold their foot up with the device, and those tend to need to go higher. So you'll have to talk to the physician about what they're going to order, because it matters, because the actual material, there's a mid-leg sock and there's a Bermuda sock which goes much higher. What you can kind of see here real quick, just kind of give you an example of that. There's more common, there's a lace-up one that would be the shorter version, which is the kind we'll be doing today. And there's a version where there's actually goes much, much higher. In this case, for the patient, for example, that have foot drop, where they can't lift their foot up and they tend to trip on their toe as they walk. So that would require the longer Bermuda sock. Please ask the doctor before you apply that so they know which one to get for you. So again, this time we're using the shorter sock, for example, for a lace-up support. So what you do to open this, as soon as you open this is fiberglass, it is contacting the air, it will start to dry. Now what actually increases that drying process is by getting it wet. So what we do as physicians is we'll open up that sock. You can see one side looks just like a sock, it has a little seam there, that little yellow area there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll this down just like a lady's nylon. And then once you've done that, I have a water bath over here. I'm just going to dip that in there for 5 seconds, kind of get it a little bit wet, and squeeze out any excess water. And that water bath should be just kind of lukewarm. You don't want it hot. Hot may burn the patient, and it'll dry so fast you can't get it on. And this is the most important part. As an MA, you're going to watch to make sure that patient's keeping their leg at 90 degrees. And the doctor's got to, as fast as they can, get this out before it starts to dry. And make sure they're pulling it nice and tight. Alright, once you get to that position, we need to make sure everything's nice and smooth. So what you can do is you can either get your hands wet in that water bath and just start smoothing it like that, or there's actually these bottles that are provided for you that actually have water in that, and you just kind of spray it to get nice and wet. That'll make it easier to smooth everything out. And again, you're making sure that patient's keeping their foot at about 90 degrees. That's very important. Put your foot right down for me. So they'll sit like that. One, either the assistant or the doctor will be smoothing while the other one's using their hand to keep that at 90 degrees. It is very important that if you put your hand on this as it's drying, that you always maintain a flat hand. Don't grasp it with your fingers. You do that, you're going to leave actual marks in the actual cast. So we're smoothing that out, making sure that it mimics the arch very nicely. The doctor will be maintaining that 90-degree position and also the making sure the foot is in the proper and appropriate plane. You're just going to keep doing this until it dries. And this may take a little while. Again, my hands are always flat in the bottom. Anytime I touch it, my hand's always flat. I'm not grabbing with my fingers. You also don't want to leave your hand in one spot for too long because you will lose a glove. It tends to stick. So you can see I keep removing my hands. The patient can obviously help you as well. I mean, in this case, he's helping me hold his foot at 90 degrees. Just keep reminding that if they're weakening and their foot's dropping, they can help you a little bit, but for the most part, it should be you doing it yourself. So it's still quite a bit soft. I'll edit a little bit here, so do you have any questions about that? Okay. It's going to take a while to dry. I'm not going to be talking for that long. So it really is so important to keep rubbing it like this, okay?
Can we turn this off?
What's that? You could, yeah, technically.
Huh?
You could, yeah, sure.